Welcome back to the Subtle Sport podcast. As usual, in 2025, this podcast is sponsored by ERG Builders. ERG Builders are the new sponsor for the year, and we're proud to have them on board. Now, ERG Builders are based in Northamptonshire and the Kettering area and aim to be the contractor of choice in the residential and commercial sector. If you want to get in contact with them, head to 077 363 74821 or head to their website, www.ergbuilders.co.uk. Moving into today's episode then, sadly I'm not joined by Bailey because he's got work commitments, but I am very happy to be joined by our guest today, Jack Stobbs. Jack, thank you for joining me today, mate, and how are you?
Thanks for having me, mate. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Perfect, mate. Well, before we get into the main bits of the episode then, mate, do you just want to give myself and maybe anyone listening a little overview of your career so far?
Yeah, I joined Sheffield Wednesday at 6 years old, sort of like pre-academy sessions and stuff like that a couple of times a week, and then came all the way through there. Had a couple of loan spells at Port Vale and Livingston in Scotland, and then found myself out the game for a year. Ended up at Oldham, Torquay, and then Buxton this season, and recently joined Matlock on loan.
I mean, when you were in those academy years then, mate, with Sheffield Wednesday, obviously a pretty big club in like the EFL and the Championship and whatnot. What was it like coming through the academy there?
I think at that age you don't particularly see, the size of a club, or, as a kid you just love playing football, and
Yeah.
that's all you want to do. I don't think it matters where you are or who you're at. It's just, you just love playing football, and that just comes before anything, really.
No, definitely. And how did you get picked up by Sheffield? Were you playing grassroots at the time, or did you just go to like those academy stuff?
League team. Yeah, just a local Sunday League team back in Leeds, where I'm originally from. I think I only started there at around 5 years old, so probably in under 12 months I got picked up, and then went there, and just sort of the rest is history.
I mean, obviously you went there. You said you was 6 years old? You started training with Sheffield Wednesday in the academies. Were there any other trials that you went on when you were younger, or anything like that?
Yeah, I also went to Leeds a little bit later than that. I'd probably say around 8 years old. That was when the club was in a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And it's funny as well, because being a Leeds supporter, when it came down to choosing the clubs, I actually picked Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay,
Whether that was because I was there for longer and I loved it there, I'm not too sure. But to make that decision at that age, you would have thought I'd have gone for the club I supported.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work out like that.
I mean, like you said, you spent so long at Sheffield Wednesday, making your Championship debut there. When you look back on those years, did anyone stand out as a real supportive figure in your career in your younger years?
Just my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you have so many different coaches throughout the academies, and that usually changes year on year until you get a bit older. But just the effort and the time that my parents put in, because obviously Leeds to Sheffield can be an hour's drive. And, you go from a couple of times a week when you're younger, and then when it gets a little bit more serious, it goes to 3, 4, 5 times. So just a constant backing I had from them without any pressure. Just to go and enjoy my football, and what will be, will be.
And how important is it as well? Because I've spoken with so many people in terms of like parental figures and stuff. And I remember it when I was playing in Kettering's academy when I was younger. My old man drove us from Kettering to Chorley on a minibus for a FA Youth Cup game. And that was I think that was about a 3-4 hour drive. But it's a massive influence, isn't it? Parental figures on your footballing career, because they do so much for people, don't they?
It is, yeah. Because I mean, at the time, I don't think you realise the sacrifices they have to make. My mum worked nights for the whole time I was growing up to be able to allow me to go to football. My dad would go to work throughout the day, come home at 4 o'clock, and then take me straight over there. We wouldn't get back till 10 o'clock most nights. And then obviously my mum would leave for work at tea time and finish at the early hours of morning. So it's just sacrifices like that that give you the best possible chance to do what you want to do.
No, exactly. I mean, going back to like your youth academy days, then quickly, mate. Was there any moments of doubt when you were younger, especially like in the teenage years, maybe when you were starting to break through a little bit? Were there any moments of doubt where you maybe doubted yourself about making it as a professional footballer at all, or was that always in your mind and always the goal?
It was always the goal. I mean, you know, when you're young, like I say, it's all about enjoying it, and the rest will take care of itself. I never really felt that pressure growing up because you've got your heart set on it and nothing else really matters. But it's only until you get a little bit older that you realise, it's a very rarity and a small chance that you will have a career in football. But sort of at that time when you are breaking in so young, you think you'll be at that level forever, or
Mm.
the only way is up. But obviously, it doesn't usually work like that unless you're very fortunate. So yeah, it was just about enjoying it and just seeing what happened.
I think just before you broke into the Sheffield Wednesday first team or thereabouts, you were winning league titles as well, weren't you, with the academy boys? What were those moments like? Because I can imagine they were great times.
Yeah, great. I mean, I was still at school when I started playing for the under-20. It was under-21s at the time. I was playing regularly for them at like 15 years old, so I didn't spend a lot of time at school, sort of in my last, 12 months there. And then obviously went on to captain the under-23s to the league titles and stuff. So it was great. I mean, at that age, when you've had a taste of first team football, that's all you want to do. But when you are still playing at a 23s level, you need to impress in that to be able to get them chances. So it was good for the club for us to do that because it had not been done before. So it's nice to be able to say, and I think still to this day we are the only ones to do it
Well, there you go
for
then.
Sheffield Wednesday. So yeah, it is nice.
And then, like with the youth team as well, obviously stepping up to senior football, it's a big thing, isn't it? And you kind of alluded to it there. Um, was there anything that you really struggled with when you came into senior football, or did you just adapt straight away?
No, I did find it tough. And I'd say that to anyone. I mean, when I joined Buxton this year, it's a team full of a lot of young lads who've come from like top academies, um, and I think under-23s is a worse thing for football
Yeah.
because it just does not prepare you at all for what's to come, in real football, men's football. The difference is huge. People say under-18s to under-23s. Physicality wise, yeah, there obviously is a difference because you do get grown men playing in it, but the next step up between that is just, you can't compare them.
No, and it's interesting you say that because I spoke to the core manager a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that he has a couple of young boys that he could bring into like first teams or play with their reserves teams, but he'd rather send them out on loan to a lower step just to get that experience in senior football. Would you kind of echo that a little bit and saying that's just the best thing to do? Just go out and get a bit of men's football, whatever
Yeah,
level.
yeah, it does. Yeah, like you say, it doesn't matter what level. I think a lot of these lads at top academies think, well, I'm at Man City or I'm at Chelsea, whatever. I'm not going and playing in, National League. But I was having a conversation with someone last night, and non-league is just getting better and better every year. It
100%, yeah.
doesn't matter what level or step it is. It just seems to be improving year on year. I mean, I've spent the last 3 years in non-league now, and each year it's just got better.
No, it has definitely got better, and I think everyone can sort of see that, can't they? I mean, when you made your debut then for Sheffield Wednesday, mate, what was that moment like? How did you get to find out you were going to be involved in match squads? What was it like coming onto the pitch? Because obviously coming into a championship environment, it must have been difficult and it must have been immense pressure.
Yeah, well, I was actually involved in quite a lot of squads before I actually made my debut, but just sort of being around it, whether you were a spare man, not in the squad or on the bench. My first ever time was Millwall away, which was tough, but obviously so enjoyable. And
Yeah.
I think the only reason why I went down that day, I think Connor Wickham got recalled by, might have been, was it Crystal Palace maybe?
I remember it. I think it was around there at that sort of time, so it might have been Palace. I was thinking Palace.
So that was sort of a last minute thing, which I ended up going down. And then with my debut, I don't remember too much of it. I wish I did. I mean, there's certain bits, but in terms of, I think it just went so fast. I think I got half an hour against Bolton, but yeah, it went so quick. I just don't remember too much of it.
And then what was it like for your family as well? Because you obviously said earlier about your parents making sacrifices. It must have been a proud moment for everyone involved with you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they take you all them years and spend all them hours driving you here, there and everywhere. It was just nice to have that reward and, nice to see it all pay off.
Exactly, especially when you've been at the club for so long as well. You obviously went on a couple of loans there as well. Like you said, you were at likes of Port Vale, Livingston. I wanted to touch on those loans quickly as well. Firstly, Port Vale, you went down to League Two at the time. Big difference from the Championship. What was those big differences, would you say, from the Championship to League Two?
Again, just men's football in general. I was playing obviously in the under-23s and finding that too easy. Wasn't obviously ready for the Championship, which is why I got sent on loan there. But again, just the physicality of it, I just don't think I was ready for that. Technically wise and what I could produce, but it was just not being ready for that step up.
Yeah.
Which caught me off guard. I think obviously if I'd have been given more of a chance, I would have adapted to it. But obviously, I think I came back to Sheffield Wednesday at Christmas, and then found myself starting games after that. So I'd gone from not playing much in League Two to being given a new contract and starting in the Championship. So, but that's funny. It's how football works.
It is, yeah, exactly.
You don't know who likes you. Somebody could love you. The next manager might not like you. It's just one of them things. And then the same with Scotland, really. Just that was very, very fast paced up there. And going into that loan, I'd not played football for around 6 months due to injuries, and so I went up unfit. I think I was a bit homesick as well, just because with being in Port Vale, I knew I was only a couple of hours from home. Whereas up there, Livingston's a very quiet place anyway. And just knowing you couldn't pop home on a weekend or whatever, I don't think I dealt too well with that. But it's one of them things. It's all a learning curve. So.
No, definitely. And I was going to ask you about that as well, because I spoke to someone who was at Motherwell at one point in his career in the Scottish Premiership, and he struggled as well with the adaptation, like on and off the pitch. So what was it with you? Was it just purely down to the homesick sort of ness? Because was you around there in the COVID times as well, or was it just before or out of that?
That was just before. So I think I went up in the August, and then I needed an operation midway through my loan, so I ended up going back to Sheffield Wednesday. Had my operation at the end of November, I think. And then by the time I'd got back fit and able to train, COVID came around. And then I was out of contract that year. So that's where it all just fizzled out there, really. And that's when I left.
Yeah, and I mean, what were those injury points for you, like, getting through those surgeries and those little setbacks?
I always found that when I seemed to be doing well, that's when they came. Whether that was due to an overload that my body was trying to adapt to and I couldn't handle, or, it always seemed to be when I was kicking on, something would come up, push me back even further.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started being involved with the first team at Sheffield, I'd snapped both my ankles back to back. So just things like that. So it's constant setbacks, but it's part of the game and you've got to find a way to deal with it.
No, definitely. Is that something that's followed you throughout your career as well, or was that mainly just when you were a little bit younger?
Yeah, I think more so when I was younger. I mean, every player has injury problems and niggles here and there. Mine have always seemed to be the same things. So as you get older, it's just using that experience, knowing how to deal with your body and what works for you and so on. But yeah, I think definitely going through changes when I was younger was the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, going back to those two loans then, mate, with Port Vale and Livingston, what sort of experiences did you take from them? Even though you maybe didn't play as much as you wanted to, I'm sure you still learnt a lot and took it on with you for the rest of your career.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just toughening up, and when you're thrown in an environment like that where points matter, and it's not about development anymore. You're playing for something and mortgages and whatnot. So it was just if you want to be in that environment and have a career that lasts in the game, you need to toughen up and do
Mm.
it quickly.
I mean, moving on then, mate, you mentioned earlier about you took a year out of football, you took some time out of football. What was that like for you? Because I didn't, but whilst doing my research for this, I didn't actually know you took time out of football. What was that little spell for you like? What was that due to? What was that down to?
So obviously, when my contract ended at Sheffield Wednesday, it was when COVID came about.
Mm.
So it was tough because I'd not played a great deal of first team football, and I was 23 at the time.
Mm.
I'd probably only played 30 games, maybe. Um, so going into sort of, people are looking for players with experience,
Yeah.
or um, I was sort of waiting and waiting around for the right offers, and I was getting offers elsewhere, but somewhere I didn't want to drop to, and so it was. Looking back now, it was silly of me. I wish I didn't, but I'd fallen out of love with football anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and I think looking back now, I'm glad I did take that time away just to sort of, you know what I wanted and
Mm.
sort of regain that love for it. And um, yeah, I definitely needed it looking back.
No, definitely. I mean, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? You know, looking back, you maybe do doubt taking that time out or not accepting the right offer, but looking back on it now, it is probably something that you maybe did need to do, didn't it? Just to know, like you said, know what you want.
Yeah, it was just a reset. I mean, more so now, more than ever, I'm 28 now, so, you haven't got long in the game, and
Mm.
to take a year out, people must think you're stupid because it doesn't last forever, and I'll never get that time back. But it was definitely something I needed to do.
Yeah, and then when you came back, you played for the likes of Oldham. Sorry, obviously, like a bit like Sheffield Wednesday, a massive club in the football pyramid, a massive club in the EFL. What was it like going to Oxford? How did the move come about, and was it something you jumped at when you got the offer?
Yeah, so I got a chance to train with them at the end of the season. I sat out for the last couple of weeks. Keith Curl was the manager at the time, so he invited me back for pre-season. Obviously, thinking there'll be a few trialists, and I'm not kidding. There must have been 50 within the space of 5 or 6 weeks, um, and I was the only one who managed to get a contract.
Yeah.
So it was a big sigh of relief because I knew, obviously, taking that time out to then just be able to go to a League Two club and get a contract and another chance at the game was obviously a massive thing. So I was just glad to be able to do that.
Yeah, and then was there any differences when you first went to Oldham compared to your first spell in League Two with Port Vale?
Yeah, I think I've just grown up a lot more.
Yeah.
I appreciated the game a lot more as well for having sat that year out. Um, I just worked as hard as I could. Didn't always perform the best, but that's football and it happens.
Mm. I mean, when you went into Oldham, it was obviously a bit of a difficult time on and off the pitch, wasn't it? I mean, the season did end in relegation, but what was those experiences like for you? How did you bounce back from that? Because you stayed with them in the National League as well for a bit, didn't you? What was that time
Yeah,
like?
I mean, I had a bit of a tough time at Oldham fans wise. You know, Oldham fans have got a thing; they'll single out a player every year. I've seen it since I've left. Somebody always seems to take the brunt of it, which they're allowed their opinions, and you can understand the frustration of them probably seeing a team in the Premier League dropping
Mm.
down and down, and obviously the first time out of the Football League I was a part of. So, but they're allowed their opinions, and I just knew whenever I wore the shirt, I'd give my best. Fair enough, I probably didn't have the best game sometimes, but that's every football player for you.
Yeah.
But the manager obviously saw something in me to keep me, and yeah, I enjoyed my time there. It's it's football for you.
Yeah, exactly. And as anyone who works in football, loves football, they know it's a difficult world to be in. And how have you bounced back from, little experiences like that, whether it's fans being on your back or whether it's managers or whatnot? Because something we settle on in the talk about, sorry, on the podcast is very much like the mental health of players and getting into their sort of struggles or mentality and how they work basically. So I just wanted to get your perspectives on that, mate.
Obviously, some players will deal with it a lot better than others. I am quite thick-skinned. I can laugh it off. There's certain times where things do annoy you and probably do get to players, but like I say, fans are allowed an opinion, and if you're a part of football, you have to be able to take that, whether it's good or bad. Some people will like you, some people won't, and that's just a game that we're in, and it all comes along with it. So, but I'm all right. I interact with them where I can, good or bad. I'll have a laugh with them. If somebody wants to slag you off, I'm all for it. I'll have a laugh with you about that. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you went to a couple of other clubs across the non-league and in the National League, one of them being Torquay. What was that moving down there from Oldham to Torquay? Because obviously it's another big adaptation period, isn't it? Moving down to the south.
Yeah, it came about so quick. I'd obviously found myself not involved at Oldham for a few months when David Unsworth came in. I'd played against Torquay in the first game of that season at Plainmoor. Had quite a good game down there. And then it came about on the Monday afternoon and I moved on the Wednesday. And obviously, it's like a 6-hour drive from Leeds to Torquay. So it was just a split decision. I had to make a split decision and, playing games is better than not. Whether
100%,
you have to move and it was the best thing I ever did.
No, and it was a very difficult season in terms of you had the likes of Wrexham and Notts County, who obviously had that very memorable season in the National League. What was it like going up against them, and even Chesterfield, obviously, who got to that playoff final that year and then won the league the following season? What was it like going up against those sort of clubs?
Yeah, great experience. Like I say, just being back playing football again, especially big crowds. And I had 10 games left down at Torquay when I went down, and we ended up winning 8 of the last 10. And I think we went down by a point in the end. But the squad that we'd got together for them last 10 games was really, really good. A really enjoyable period, and which obviously I wanted to stay down there for another season afterwards.
What was it like? When you went to Torquay, did you completely move down there for that period, or were you still travelling between places, or how did that work?
So originally on the loan period, I moved down. I think there was only 6 weeks left. So obviously the club put me up for the last 6 weeks. And then when we entered the off season, I'd made my mind up within probably the first week or two about going back down permanently.
Yeah.
So both me and my partner moved down permanently. And we absolutely loved it. Just the place, the club. And don't get me wrong, towards the end of the season, we had it tough there with the club going into administration and stuff. But yeah, just on a whole, I and my partner, we both loved it down there.
I mean, as a player then, because obviously you would have dealt with off-the-pitch issues at Torquay and Oldham, does it affect you at all personally as a player whilst you're playing with everything going on behind the background?
It can do, because obviously, you're a normal human being at that level. You're not earning hundreds of £1,000s and you've got bills to pay, whatever it is. So I'd be lying if I say it didn't have a small effect. But at the end of the day, when you step on the pitch on a Saturday, you've got a job to do and, you're playing for that club. So you've just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and like I said, you spent a few years in non-league now. How would you judge it? You kind of said earlier that it's just getting better and better, isn't it? What's your evaluation pretty much of non-league as a whole?
Well, I think I saw a stat the other day about the clubs that go up from the National League to League Two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I could be wrong, but I don't think there's one being relegated back like
I
straight
don't
away.
think
So
there has,
whereabouts
no,
that now?
because obviously you've had like Notts County and Wrexham have gone up recently, haven't they? Wrexham have kept bouncing. You've had like Bromley and Chesterfield just outside playoffs this year as well. So
Mm.
I think you are right in saying that, to be fair.
I mean, obviously, I played in both leagues. I don't think there's much of a difference.
Mm.
Individually, probably certain players that could kick on in League Two and go play League One champ. But then you look at the National League, like you say, your Wrexham, Stockport, Chesterfield have kept a large majority of them squads and gone on to do really well themselves. Obviously, until I'd rejoined Torquay for the second spell, I'd not played in North or South football. But again, so very good levels, some very good teams. And then obviously joining Matlock recently, that level again, it takes you by surprise.
Yeah, it does, definitely. I mean, looking at, the non-league pyramid as a whole, because I've had this conversation with a few guests recently, as a whole, it's changing, isn't it? Because you are getting more respect almost down there in the National League. You're getting bigger budgets, even at like step 3, step 4, bigger clubs, sorry, with bigger ambitions. I don't know if you've heard of a club, but Real Bedford, they've had a few like media stories about them recently. They've got big aspirations. What is it like, the non-league system? How do you see it, going up from those, especially the lower league, step 3 below?
It's ever growing. You look at Tamworth last year and what they did, and they're a part-time team, and have competed very well in the National League this year. I think no matter what level you have, if you have a hard-working squad full of lads who want to graft for the manager, they want to run around, you
Yeah.
can't go far wrong. It doesn't matter what ability you've got. At these levels, you need to work hard, and you find that that will take you places.
And obviously, a few weeks ago, wasn't it? There was that proposal for the free up campaign from the National League. What's your views on that? Because I personally think that needs to be done.
It has to be. It's such a tough schedule. You got to think that a lot of these lads at these levels work, and
Yeah,
then they'll go and play on a Tuesday night, or they'll be working Saturday morning and then go and play. You put in all that hard work all season. You might finish on 101 points and finish second and not go up. Whereas any other league, it just doesn't happen. You
no,
should be
exactly. Yeah,
rewarded for your hard work, and I think that's the only way it can be solved.
I mean, like you said, you were caught a little bit by surprise when you went to Matlock this season and the level that the likes of Step 3 and Step 4 are. What were those biggest surprises for you?
Just the difference in, obviously I've played at every level bar in Premier League and League One. Just the standard of individuals, and I think you find a lot of these levels now are lads who are dropping down, getting
Yeah,
older, but they're still very, very good footballers. And then you've got young lads who are coming up, whether it's their academy systems or they're just playing men's football at a young age. You can see that they've got that physicality, and they are tough leagues. And you look at Macclesfield and what they've done this
yeah.
year, like I think that was my second or third game for Matlock. We went there, we got beat 1-0, but just a level of football that they play, and wanting to pass the ball around, and which I've always been brought up to do through academy systems, and teams that I've played in have wanted to play that way. So I think a lot of people would associate non-league with just head it and kick it, but it seems to be coming further and further away from that every year.
No, definitely, and the level is improving tenfold, especially over the last 2-3 years. When you look at this season, then, mate, like you said, you joined Buxton in the National League North, just outside the playoff spots at the moment. What was that sort of spell like for you at the beginning of the season with them?
Well, I missed all of pre-season due to a little niggle I had with my Achilles, so that was frustrating in terms of. I think I did the first 2 weeks, felt really good, and then that came on, but I managed to get back on the bench for the first game. And I think I went on to play 25, maybe pushing on 30 games this season. Mostly out of position, but I was playing 90 minutes every week, and then just suddenly found myself out of favour, which again happens. And I'm not just someone. A lot of people have said to me, why would you leave a promotion chasing team?
Yeah.
To drop a league and go fight a relegation battle, but I just can't sit and I train all week, work hard, and I can't just sit on a Saturday and not
And
play.
not do anything. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I think that's something that could be echoed to so many like young players, couldn't it? And it's just getting playing, isn't it? It's just that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I sat out 2 games at Bucks and I said, look, I've got to go and play somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just for my own sake as well. Like, I don't deal very well with not playing, and just for my own head, just knowing that I'm playing games. I don't care whether they're in a relegation battle. I like to think I thrive in them situations, and just knowing that you can go and try and help a club or whatever it may be. I'd much rather do that than just sit and say, I played a part. Because no matter whether Buxton get promoted or not, I've still played my part. It doesn't matter whether I'm still there to lift the trophy or whatever. I've still played my part. And if I'm playing somewhere else, then it is what it is.
Well, like you said, then you've gone to Matlock in a bit of a relegation battle, but it's been an up and down season, hasn't it? Because the club has gone in spells where they've won and drew a couple of games, then lost a couple of games. It's just the story of football, isn't it? Going on those little runs and then dropping off a little bit. What has it been like for you going into those games? Obviously, you said Macclesfield was just your second game against them. Obviously, runaway leaders at the top. What has it been like going into an environment at Matlock? Because as someone looking in, they are, even though they're in the relegation zone or around there at the moment, it's definitely an ambitious club because you've got the likes of yourself there. You've got Isaiah Noel-Williams has just gone there as well. What's it like being in that environment?
I mean, we were talking the other day. We played Hyde on Saturday and won 4-0. And there's just no way that squad should have ever been in the situation that they're in. Whether the momentum from the start of the season when they were just getting hammered every week just carried on, and once you're in that environment, it's quite tough to get out of sometimes.
Yeah.
But the squad that they have now, the manager Adam Clayton, who's excellent, he's been great with me. There's no way that club should be in the position that they're in. And what happens going forward, whether they get relegated, whether we manage to stay up, I don't know. The last 3 games will tell, but I think even going forward, it still remain an ambitious club, and they will get to where they want to go.
Yeah, and what's it been like for you personally since being there in terms of like the fans and the squad and the boys getting in around them?
It's great. The fans are great. They've got a good backing. I think for that level, they're probably in the top 3 for home attendances. A lovely ground. And still, even when we have been beat, they're still there clapping at the end. They want you to do well. You can see that. So, and I think little towns and villages, whatever it is like that, they're passionate about their club, and it's a community feel. So, you can see they want you to do well, and it's nice to repay them.
Yeah, and like you said, you've got 3 massive games now between now and the end of the season. How important is it for you to just, try and knuckle down, push on and get to that next step and push on to try and get the club, in the right direction?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're all looking in the same direction. That's what we all want to do. And hopefully if we do manage to do that, there's a chance for the club to push on next season and get to where they want to be. The foundations are there for it. The players that they do have for next season are more than good enough to go and challenge for promotion. So hopefully that can happen.
And then looking towards the future then, mate, what are your aims and ambitions on a personal level, whether that's with Matlock, whether that's with Buxton or elsewhere?
It's just to play football, just enjoy it. I'm lucky enough to have had a full-time career since I was 16. I've just turned 28 recently now, so I've had a good barring the year that I missed out. I've had a good 11 years of full-time football.
Yeah.
Wherever it takes me yet, I don't know yet. But, I just want to play football for as long as I can, and where that will be, I don't know, but I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then just a few more things then, just to quickly ask, mate, before we slowly start to round off. And it's sort of stuff we ask all our guests, really. And the first one, mate, who is the best player you've played with and the best player you've played against?
There's probably a couple. Barry Bannon is definitely one of them. Unbelievable player.
What's he like then, technically? Because obviously he's been at Sheffield for so long now. What has he been like, watching him in training, technical ability and everything? I bet
he's one of them players. Yeah. You know what he's going to do, but you just can't stop him. Technically unbelievable. I think he could have had a career in the Premier League. He loves it at Sheffield Wednesday, which is why he stayed. He should never, ever be playing in League One.
No.
Obviously, when he did, he was the best player by a country mile, but could have comfortably had a career in the Prem.
Yeah.
I did train with Ross Barkley when he came on loan at Sheffield when he was younger. Again, unbelievable player. So I would probably say them two.
And then how about against, whether that was in a game or something?
In a competitive game?
Yeah. Or was there someone in a pre-season friendly?
I would probably say hardest opponent to mark, Adama Traore.
Okay, yeah.
Just for his pure speed. Played against Lukaku in a pre-season friendly. Was unbelievable. Just the sheer size and strength of him. And I would say probably Morgan Gibbs-White as well would be up there.
Was this when he was still a little bit younger, when he was at Wolves Academy,
this is when he was at Wolves, sort of breaking through at Wolves. We played him in a Carabao Cup game, I think it was. He was probably only 17, 18 at the time, but he was unbelievable, and you can see why he's gone on to do what he's done.
Yeah, definitely, because I think Morgan Gibbs-White, I watched them in a Carabao Cup game, I think it was last season against Forest, when he was at Forest, and when you're watching him up close, his technical ability is just a joke, like his footwork, everything. I was so shocked by how good he was when I first saw him.
Yeah. Physicality as well, like he's quick, he just runs non-stop. He definitely deserves to be where he is.
Yeah, and then finally, mate, it's something we ask all our guests, and it's a leaving message as such, mate. And the question is, if there's anyone if you have any advice, for someone struggling in football or just general life, what would that be?
Tough times never last. Everybody struggles with certain things, whether that's work-related, personal life. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to get your head down, work hard, appreciate the little things, and just enjoy life as much as you can.
Well, look, I think that's a perfect way to round off. Jack, thank you for joining me today, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed sitting down speaking with you, and all the best for the future, whatever lies ahead.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's all right, mate. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in. I just want to say thank you for sticking with us. It's been difficult recently for podcasts due to personal stuff going on in mine and Bailey's life. For me personally, I'm in my final year at uni, so it's been a couple of stressful months. And I'm now moving house as well, so it's been a couple of stressful days as well. Chaotic. But we have plenty more podcasts lined up. And until then, we will see you next time.